his church, and his graveside. Do you know the name of the avenue that we're on?
It was, or no.
All right, let me give you a clue, and I want somebody to raise their hand. Alabama won the National Football Championship a couple of years ago, and there's another school in the same state that Cam Newton went to. Auburn? Okay, so on what avenue were we on?
Auburn Avenue.
That's a very good attempt, sir, but you're very correct there, sir. Auburn Avenue is where Martin Luther King grew up, where his church that he pastored was also located, and of course, where we had a chance to go visit his gravesite. He started out preaching, as we all know, at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. His history goes all the way up to almost the year 2000. Of course, we do celebrate today, the MLK holiday. And as you know, in between, from when he started as a young minister, working on the civil rights legislation, to his famous speech in Washington, I Have a Dream speech, to the points in which, unfortunately, he had to go to jail a few times to stand up for our rights, rights that we all enjoy. To him advocating with his mentor there. Who's this guy in this picture? Who?
Andy.
All right. As you know, Martin Luther King was born January 15, 1929. He had to fight an old law that was put in place under a famous legal case known as Plessy versus Ferguson, which set up by our top court in this country, the United States Supreme Court, the notion of segregation, meaning black people and white people had to live together. They couldn't have the same accommodations. And that went on from the 1890s up until 1950. Martin Luther King also, as a child, obviously grew up with a period of segregation in Atlanta, Georgia. But as a young man, he went to the Booker T. Washington High School, and ultimately, as you know, what college did he go to?
Martin Luther King, International, I forgot his name.
What school did you visit?
The International, Chapel, International.
Okay, he went to International Chapel, but he went to a college in particular. What was the name of that college? You met a young man named Chambers Jones, who was standing outside. There's a statue of Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King International Chapel. I can't.
The chapel was Martin Luther King International Chapel on the campus of Spelman, Morris Brown, Morehouse College. That's where we were.
Yeah. When you said Moore, I remember Morehouse.
And I tried to stand in the way so y'all couldn't see. He got into Morehouse College. How old was he when he went to Morehouse?
Well, he was 15.
All right. And how old are you when you go to high school?
18.
No. How old are you when you go to high school?
16.
When you're in the 9th grade, how old do you think you'll be?
About 13. 14.
14 to 15 years old. So Martin Luther King went and started college when he was 15. So that meant that he should have been in high school. The time period in which he started college, he actually was starting the same time you would have started if you were in high school. Of course, you know the history. He graduated from Morehouse as a young man and went on to Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania. And after he had a chance to hear two ministers preach about the life and teaching of Mahatma Gandhi, he began to study Gandhi very seriously. Why do you think Gandhi is important to Martin Luther King or anyone else?
Because Gandhi went against the Jim Crow laws and the segregation laws.
Okay, Gandhi went against laws in his country that were similar to the laws in our country at the time. You mentioned Jim Crow and segregation. Gandhi had to deal with similar things in terms of his people in the country of India being segregated or separated against. What is the principle that Gandhi preached?
He preached it's not right for the widows or any person who is kept under control, treated without civil rights. He said it's not right.
You think Gandhi believed in picking up a gun and going to get somebody?
No.
He didn't?
He didn't.
So what was his theory called?
Nonviolent disobedience.
Nonviolent disobedience. And of course, this affected the life works of Dr. Martin Luther King. You see him here with his wife, Coretta. With the Civil Rights Movement, we had a chance to go to what city originally? And I know Marquise didn't have a chance to go, but what city did we go to when we started studying the Civil Rights era?
No,
boycott or boycott?
That's the movement, it's called boycott.
Oh, I was there.
What city did we go to?
We went to Atlanta. I don't know.
We just went to Atlanta. What was the first city we went to?
North Carolina?
Yes.
Greensboro.
Okay. And they were called the what?
The forest sitting.
You gotta take it out of your mouth, sir.
Sitting.
It was a sit-in, but it was how many guys? 17?
4.
4? They were known as the Greensboro 4, right? Okay. Rosa Parks is a person that also had her own form of sit-in in 1955, during the same time period in which we began to study this era. Dr. King was a person that also refused to give up his place at times in public. But in particular, because he was a person that was known as a leader in the Civil Rights Movement, law enforcement started watching everything Dr. King did.
So he had a criminal record?
You can say that. But you can say he had a criminal background based upon unjust laws. And that's what he fought to change. In this instance, because law enforcement was watching him so much, he was charged, in this case, with traveling 30 miles in a 25-mile-per-hour speed zone, which was very questionable. Going 5 miles over the speed limit. Could you argue he was breaking the law?
No.
Possibly, but because it's just so close, it would have been hard back then. Here's other aspects of what they did back during this time period in an attempt to discredit Dr. King. Martin Luther King at a communist training school. Communism obviously was a bad notion against our country back then. The United States being the country of freedom and independence, its automatic known enemy was the USSR or Russia, because they believed in communism. So the government intentionally lied about Martin Luther King in an attempt to stop him from fighting back against racial discrimination. But you had some good people that were involved in politics in that time, in particular the Kennedy family. Ultimately, one of the brothers became the president. The other brother became the United States attorney, who held a position as the Attorney General to fight against certain laws that were unjust. Yes, sir.
Bobby Kennedy his John F. Kennedy's son, or?
It was his brother.
So he was his vice president?
He wasn't his vice president. He was the Attorney General. He was a man that worked in the president's cabinet. Was not his vice president. Lyndon Baines Johnson, who had been a member of the United States Senate for a number of years, he was the vice president for President Kennedy. As you know, Dr. King marched for civil rights. So one of the things that you heard a name at one point that hadn't been said a lot was a man during that same time period known as Malcolm X. Malcolm X had a different type of philosophy because he practiced a different type of religion, but that religion didn't necessarily advocate the things that he was about. Malcolm X believed in
Violence.
not turning the other cheek in particular. And he said he would use violence by any means.
He said, and he used to act like one of the, he didn't act like a black person. He used to put his stuff in his hair to make his hair long, grow out long.
You mean like a conch?
Yeah.
So he put dye on his hair and it made it slick down and he changed it.
Yeah, when he went in jail for trying to, he was talking to a white lady. He went to jail because they thought he was flirting with her. So he and he met this person in there, and that person told him that why you act like that? If you don't stop, then you might be one of them.
Okay.
And then he changed his name when he was, because nobody actually really told him like his name. And when people everybody has a name, you have a name, and then he changed it because he really didn't know
and that's where the X comes from, the unknown. So he kept his first name that he was given by his parents, Malcolm, and his last name that he said he was given because it was handed down from someone who was little. You saying he dropped the last name and used X. Malcolm X explained that X was equivalent to the unknown. So you're right, he did drop his last name. He said he didn't know his name. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, actually, you would think because they believed in very different things, they would have been opposed to each other.
They were actually really close together.
They were very close in terms of working to make the situation better for everyone, in particular Black Americans. And so while they did practice different philosophies, as you can see, they were very friendly towards one another.
Was it Malcolm X became a minister and then he was like, he wanted to be like Martin Luther King by being a minister?
They were both ministers in their various religions. Martin Luther King was a Christian, and Malcolm X was a Muslim.
And they were both assassinated. I don't think they figured out who assassinated Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
But they saw who assassinated Malcolm X.
They did saw.
Okay, who was that dude standing right there with the glasses?
That's Malcolm X. You didn't hear a word that he just said?
Yes, I did, but I knew that was Martin Luther King.
Okay. That's right. At first, it was a question of who, unfortunately, took the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, because he was shot from a distance.
He was on his back.